The April 18, 2023 meeting of the Bennington Development Review Board of Order. Looks like we have a full board, or it's almost a full board today. And welcome to the people in the audience. First item on the agenda is the minutes from the last meeting. I'll make a motion to approve. All in favor? I will abstain. The next item is the reading of the witness's oath. Dan.
Okay. So anybody who wants to ask a question or present information to the board this evening, we ask that you sign on a sign-up sheet on the podium, and it contains the following oath statement. I solemnly swear or affirm under the pain and penalty of perjury, the statements I make, testimony I give, and other evidence I submit to the board, and the board will hear me out on this date, shall be true and correct to the best of my knowledge. And that's right on the podium. We ask you to sign in before you speak to the board this evening. The next item on the agenda is disclosure of ex parte communications to the conflicts of interest of any board members regarding the hearings that happened this evening.
I do have a separate motion of the resources to the matter again. I don't know what that
Does that have anything to do with this particular project? Okay, this project would not impact that in the way it has no discussions. Does anyone on the board have an objection? Anybody nodding? Okay. All right, up first, we have two hearings this evening. The first one is Bennington DT1 LLC, 108 Northside Drive. The applicant is seeking approval for the construction of two new restaurants on Northside Drive. So we would ask that the applicants introduce themselves to the board and the public.
Good evening. My name is Jason Dolmich. I'm with MSK Engineers, and I'm representing the engineer for the applicant. We have Mike and Jake from Marker Construction here as well, who's also representing the applicant DT1, who are proposing to redevelop the 108 Northside Drive, which is an existing approximately 2-acre parcel near the intersection of Northside Drive and Benmont Avenue and Kosher Drive intersections. We are currently, as a part of this applicant, seeking approval for the proposed subdivision of the parcel, which will house two restaurants and drive-through located on the site, and we're planning on demolishing the existing structure, and then we'll be constructing, as noted on the site plan, parking to the rear, to the side and rear of the structures, and as well as drive-through lanes with a shared access. And this is located in the PC district. We are proposing some exterior seating along the front of the buildings. Each one of the structures will have a front access. Both structures as well will have their own pedestrian access that will connect to the sidewalks along Northside Drive. And I'll also just note that the rear of the parcel is located in the FEH, or the Fluvial Erosion Hazard Zone, which is right here as shown on the map. That existing structure encroaches on the FEH boundary in this area here. So we'll be moving the structure development towards the front of the parcel and away from the FEH zone in conformance with the standards. We have had John Broker Campbell from wetlands, or not wetlands, but from the Rivers program review this. He did just respond. He did note that some of the improvements, some of the building utilities, like I believe it's like an overhead sign stanchion, it will be located in the FEH. Our opinion is that it's a building utility, which by the standards you are allowed to approve, but all other major site improvements are located outside. We've also had worked with VTrans on the access. We've provided a detailed traffic study, and VTrans has acknowledged the traffic impact study, agrees with the findings that it will not change the existing level of service of the nearby intersection. And we're in the process of applying for the state access permit as well. All of these structures are located on municipal water and sewer, and I'll zone, if you can go to the next slide. We are proposing, move right on. We are proposing landscaping in accordance with the town standards. We have perimeter and parking landscaping, as well as landscaping along the front of the buildings, and there will be some additional screening to screen the side and rear parking areas. And we'll move on from there. Both structures are going to be, I'm not going to be an architect, but we have submitted site elevations. They are a combination of brick, CMU, and wood and metal. And they're both going to be branded ever so slightly differently. They both do have front entrances facing the street, though. We can go right on. This is the next restaurant structure, and then I'll have just an example of what they'll look like along the streetscape. With that, I turn it over to any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll start with questions from the board.
The drive,
Do you want to go back to the site plan?
go back right there. The drive around to the pickup window on the one to the north.
This one, or
Is that going to be curved so they can't get into the parking lot on the other side?
You're talking about this section? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Going to be curved?
Yep, there's going to be a divider there, a raised divider island.
The stormwater, I didn't look, you should have to pay attention to zero.
So the stormwater currently on the site goes towards roughly towards the river as it is now. We are actually reducing the impervious acreage on the site by greater than 25%.
So it is drained into the river.
Yep, it's draining to the rear of the site, and as I mentioned, there's going to be a net reduction in impervious area from what's there right now.
Stormwater permit's okay with that?
Correct. So the way that we comply with the new standards, even though the entire site's being redeveloped, is that we're doing a net reduction of 25%. So that meets the redevelopment criteria.
Has the ground been tested? Because at one time it was a chem fab building.
Yes, yes, it has been tested. There are phase 1 and 2 sites on it.
some of those monitoring wells will be maintained, correct?
I believe so. Yes, okay. One will be maintained.
Could you go to landscaping, please?
Sure.
I'm just curious about snow removal, and just what the plans would be for snow removal.
For snow removal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are several areas for snow piling. We can probably get snow removal in these areas and towards the rear of the less used parking spaces. And then, as always, if they run out of space on site, they'll just truck it off site.
Any questions from the board?
I had a traffic-related question.
Sure.
I know the V-Transit's looked at the traffic study, and you're maintaining a level C, which is good, but from a practical standpoint, do you see any unusual backups for folks turning into the site from like downtown or leaving the site, going to the west? Because it's a touchy spot there. Right?
Yeah, this was the first step that we looked at when we engaged with the client, was to say we need to make sure that that traffic patterns can be accommodated in this location because it's so close to the intersection. And the traffic study evaluated those cues. I can't speak to the specific numbers of the expectation, but part of the traffic study also acknowledges that these are not coincident uses in the sense that, you know, one is a coffee shop, and so you're going to have varying levels of use at different times of the day for each one of these activities.
There are different peak flows on the site.
Basically, yeah.
Jason, my reading of the traffic study, it didn't just look at adjacent intersections, it also looked at the level of service for the entrance drive.
Correct.
So-
Yeah, it specifically did look at
Yeah,
those.
so that's important to note that that was evaluated in the study and V-Trans agreed. that
Yes.
the entrance service was acceptable.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I
Yes.
think it is fair to say it will not be quick and easy in and out, that isn't anywhere on our site.
Yes, it is maintaining the level of service.
Yes. It works, but it's not getting better.
That's right.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Or questions? Sam? The microphone, state your name.
I'm kind of curious. I'm all happy for
Sam?
this. Oop, I
Sam,
gotta
could you come to the
state.
microphone and-
Yes, I know. I gotta state my name, Sam Racino, Bennington, Vermont. Sorry without the microphone. I'm glad this property is being used, and it's been sitting vacant for well over 30, 40 years, but I've looked on site, why two separate structures? I've noticed that Chipotle and Starbucks usually have combined structures. Any reason why you did two separate structures?
That was the request of the applicant.
That was a request of the applicant, okay. Do you know where your nearest fire plug is on site?
Fire plug?
Yeah, hydrant.
You mean the location?
Yeah, the
There's a
location.
fire hydrant right here.
Okay, thank you.
Anything, any motion from the board? Any motion to approve? Okay, motion to approve, all in favor? Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Jason's up next.
Next item is Bennington LLC, the development of the old Bennington High School / middle school. And I think, Jason, are you going to? Oh, go ahead.
That's Jack.
Please state your name and your affiliation.
Ready? Hello, everyone. My name's Jack Beyer, architect. Can you hear me? Okay? No microphone. My name's Jack Beyer. I'm an architect with Goldstone Architecture, here to present the Old Bennington High School redevelopment project. I want to introduce the members of our development team real quickly. Jeff Goldstone with Goldstone Architecture. I have John Hale and Zach Hale, there he is, with Hale Resources, the developers for the project. Jason Dolmich and Jessica Rizzio for MSK Engineers, and Shannon Barsati with the Town of Bennington Community Development Director. We've been obviously working at this for quite a long time and put a lot of energy into this. Hopefully we'll give you a good introduction here to it and answer any questions that you might have. So this is the site here, the proposed site plan It's at 650 Main Street. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the site and driven past it quite a few times. It's 2.29 acre site. It is the former Bennington High School, which closed in 2004 and hasn't been substantially occupied since that time. In accordance with the Town of Bennington Land Use and Development Regulations, this is a zoning district of mixed use number 1, MU1. And what we're proposing is a full redevelopment of the existing building, 100,000 square feet roughly, for mixed use, including 37 residential uses, or excuse me, 37 residential units and several commercial leasable spaces. This is an historic building, and we have previously or already been in front of the Bennington Historic Preservation Commission and received a unanimous endorsement of the project from their perspective. Looking at the site specifically, the proposed site conditions, probably one of the most significant improvements is in this sort of central area here, where we're proposing a new entrance plaza for the facility, which would include a drop-off and pickup zone in this area here, protected with a series of bollards for, protection of pedestrians in that area. There's, for the uses, I think that will, be a convenience and a safe way to enter and exit the parking area. The plaza will also make connection to the public sidewalk and the various entrance points to the existing building, including a new covered entrance to the two main entrances to the commercial spaces. We also created a specific bus drop point, pickup point right here, as we anticipate with the use of the building that there would be opportunity for bus traffic to drop off and pick up occupants. We've also proposed a new patio area in this area here that would be for outdoor dining as related to the commercial uses in interior. And as well, just multiple grass and planted areas within this core plaza area to soften it and make it more like a park-like environment. The parking, we're proposing redevelopment, essentially repaving of the parking lots to new striping, curbing, etc., providing parking spaces in excess of the number required by the town regulations. We're proposing a new bike rack right up front here, new pedestal-style mailboxes, which are located here. If needed, there's a chance that they may be able to be located interior to the building. 3 new screened refuse and recycling enclosures, 1, 2, 3, for the variety of uses in the building, with fully screened privacy slats, and new site lighting, which would meet the town regulations for light levels, the design standards for light levels. I'm going to go to the next slide. Whoop, that's not the right slide. That's not the right slide either.
Well,
Sorry about that. Looking for the elevations. There we go. These are the proposed building elevations. Mostly, in general, the building form is exactly the way it currently is. existing. There are no major, additions to the building, so it will look very much, similar to its current form, but obviously we're proposing improvements. And the basic improvements include these green aluminum canopy structures. There's one here, one on the west facade, one here at the east facade, and two on the back that are replacing existing metal canopy structures. And these are being provided for safer access and egress from the building. We've added a few windows to the facade. Let's see, there's one here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 windows added to the facade to bring in more natural light and address, light needs for the interior spaces. We've also included some green aluminum sunshades over the south-facing windows on the commercial spaces. We are proposing to repaint the existing concrete block facade to a lighter gray color. The existing brick masonry and cast stone structure, the historic older part of the facility will be restored and repaired as required, but basically has, same appearance. All the windows and doors will be either restored or replaced with similar looking windows and doors. We've added handrails at all the door entrances and exits to the facility. We're proposing 3 signs, one here which says the apartments at Ben High, one here which is to the commercial space which says Ben High Community Center, and then on the site there's a pedestal mount sign up near the entrance to the parking lot, which would have all the commercial tenant identifications. Those would be obviously finalized and submitted for sign permit in accordance with the sign ordinance. And then beyond that, just have some renderings to show you this is just a photo of the existing facility as it currently stands as of yesterday, right? A photo taken yesterday. And then just some computer rendering images of, the proposed facility with the site improvements and the building improvements as we've just discussed, just to, sort of help visualize and understand, the scope of the project. You want to move through those, and this is a shot from, sort of in the plaza area up close from Main Street sidewalk, from the public sidewalk, looking north, and then from the east end of the parking lot, looking to the west. And that's it. And we're here to answer any questions that anyone has.
Yeah, parking. There's so many different uses being in here now. If you're going full water, I mean, everybody's all filled up, the apartments are filled up, daycare center. Is there enough parking on site for everybody, or some folks have to park off site?
There's enough parking to meet the regulations. The regulations require 1 parking space for each residential unit, and that's
Residential.
37 parking spaces.
So the daycare center is not residential.
Right,
Some rest of it's not residential.
right.
They don't have cars. Where do they park? Regardless of the regulation, they have to park across the road or anything.
Well, there are additional parking spaces in the lot above the required 37. There's also parking available on the street and in other areas throughout the town.
Across the street, also, you're figuring on that.
I'm sorry?
Are you planning on anyone parking across the street in that lot?
Not as part of this project.
One more thing. This Historic Preservation Commission, they have no problem with changing out the wooden windows for vinyl or aluminum or whatever.
The wood windows are going to be restored.
The wood ones are going to be restored.
Yeah.
They're kind of fussy on that.
Yes, they are, yeah. Yeah, I should clarify, most of them that are facing Main Street and the most visible parts of the facade are going to be restored. With wood windows will be restored, and on the other sections, they're being, the frames are being restored and the sashes are being removed and being replaced with a wood insert, an aluminum-clad wood insert that will have similar appearance to the original wood windows. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a related follow-up question to yours, I think. There will be 6 user groups on the property. Has there been any thought to allocating certain parking spaces per user group at all?
There's been a lot of thought about it, but nothing's been finalized. I think that's a conversation for the town and the Hales to have to figure that out, but it's certainly been discussed, yes.
And do you know how many parking spots close to the building on Main Street will be available in crunch times?
Meaning along the street?
On both sides of Main Street?
Yeah, I don't have a specific count. We did identify on this plan a number of parking along the street there, so 6 vehicles in front there and another 5, on that side, although that could be interrupted by some possible drop-off time slots as well. But I don't know totally how many are available on the street. Both sides of the street have parking available, and from just my own,
I would consider that overflow parking if need be.
Yep.
I think just making a comment, I think it's a unique opportunity, obviously, and I think it's now or never. So I think this is a great step forward. I hope that the parking situation doesn't compound the situation in the future when it's actively being used by all 6 at one time. For example.
Well, if I might quote somebody, if we have a parking problem in Bennington, then we're doing something right, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I'll make a quick comment on the parking
Yep.
too. Just so that everyone knows, we are going to be having a public presentation on the 24th with more detail on the project, and we will have some data from a parking study that Mark Anders is doing from the BCRC. And we have been working with Meals on Wheels and the Senior Center and Council on Aging to designate probably 25 spaces right up front for seniors, which is almost double what they have now at the Senior Center. So we are considering all of the parking needs, and that's part of the parking study, as well as identifying the amount of spaces that are available along Main Street.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Is there going to be a change to the Main Street entrance? If there is, would you explain it?
Yeah, so, I mean, there are currently many entrances to the building, and there's this, it's, whoops. Can you slide over on the, yeah.
I'm talking about the one, not that one. The oldest one.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, the original, no, that is not, the only change to that is the replacement of the doors that are currently there with a similar type of aluminum door and transom system and addition of handrails. That's the only change to the front entrance.
The cellar's going to be used for daycare, am I right?
The lower level is going to be used for childcare, yes.
Yeah. Is there any of the state agencies that have to okay that as far as being able to get those kids out of there?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I mean,
They've approved all the access?
we are working, I'm sorry?
I say, you're talking about towers, you got to carry them.
Yeah, I mean, there are regulations and code requirements for the use of childcare on a lower level. I mean, you could call it a basement, but it's only 8 steps down from grade. So there are requirements relative to that, and we are, addressing and meeting all the regulations and requirements to have childcare at the lower floor of this facility.
Meet or exceed?
Meet or exceed. Yes.
Can I point out on my seat over here that we are also proposing,
I'm sorry, could you, excuse me?
no,
Yeah, Jeff, you want me to just, yeah, I know what he's going to point out, and that is that what we've, on the west side of the facility there, you'll see that area where Jeff's pointing out there is a proposed new accessible route out of the lower level of the facility. So specifically for, evacuation, I mean, well, it's got multiple uses, but relative to evacuation in the event of a fire, it is a very safe and easy maneuvering from the interior of the lower level to get out of the building. So we have taken measures to address the concerns that you're raising, and certainly are meeting or exceeding the regulations and requirements relative to that.
I will pick in one thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will be here. We did meet with Paul Dansereau to review the occupancy of the lower level for this purpose, and although he agreed that it's not required by code, the additional exit or entrance, the ramp that we're putting in was something that he would appreciate our adding, and it also met programmatic needs for that use. So it was a good solution on both. But even without that, it met all the code, the fire code requirements, being only 8, as Jack pointed out, only 8 steps below grade.
Just for the record, it's Jack.
Sorry.
Next time, let's state your name.
Yeah, back to the entrances, the 2 entrances facing east, they're going to be changed. I think I read something in here, but I forgot. The 2 kind of boys and girls, different entrances.
Yep.
Going to be changed.
No.
That's what we're
No, the original structure, the oldest part of the facility, the 3 main entrances into that space are not being changed. They're being restored as necessary for failing components of masonry, and handrails will be added where there are stairs. Yep.
John Hale from Hale Resources. I'd just like to point out that the building is on the National Register, and it's going through historic preservation through the National Park Service. So a lot of the restrictions on this building are, we have to stay in compliance with the National Park Service. So really the building is going to be tried to maintain as much as possible, and that's a huge component to this whole project, is getting those historic tax credits. So it's definitely something that we're working on to maintain the look of the building today.
One related question, maybe you can answer that. Where will the kids play outside?
You want to take that one,
Is
Josh?
that a requirement of the state licensing people that the kids get fresh air or something?
Yeah, so we currently own 323 Pleasant Street, which is adjacent to this property on Pleasant Street, and we own 321, and we're really negotiating to buy 319 as well, but that's not necessary to add some playground, but there's backyards there. And the reason for us owning that property and doing this project is that we have control and could actually do some land swap or sell that part of the parcel to the school so it can be utilized for some play areas. And that's right in the west side where that ramp's going to be, so they'll have an exit right to that location.
And do you have a plan?
Any other questions?
Can I point one more thing out?
Yeah.
And the daycare has said that the rec center is within walking distance, so there's also plenty of area that they could walk to the rec center, which is on Gage Street, as you all know.
Nothing else from the board, any public comments? Okay, please wait until you select that.
My name is Sarah Wilson. I'm an abutter to this project. And I just had a quick question regarding crosswalks. I've got a bird's eye view of the one crosswalk that's there. Cars seem to miss people that are trying to cross. And I'm just wondering, are there going to be any additional crosswalks added? Was there a discussion about that? Or to mark the current crosswalk a little better?
And I assume you're talking Main Street crosswalks?
That's correct.
Jack, do you have any insight on that? John?
We've not discussed with the town to have any added crosswalks, but we'd be willing to identify that crosswalk with at least signage to part of the project, just to make it more noticeable that that crosswalk's there. I think there is already signage on the street, but I mean, even adding a light, we're going to be putting electrical into the area anyways. So, I mean, we'd be willing to make some, because there will be kids crossing the street, I'm sure.
And about where is it located?
It's at the front entrance. It's right as you walk out the very front of the oldest part of the building. It's right across, right in front of that. The sidewalk right here. It crosses right here. And it is a dangerous crosswalk. So I think adding some lights would be excellent. And I'm sure we could work with the town to do that.
Sam? Again, Sam, please address the board.
Yes, I'll state my name, Sam Racino from Bennington, Vermont. I have a few questions, if you want to bring up the site map. The other one. No, with the part, yeah, that one. Where are your fire lanes located? There's a big structure here, usually, you know, apparatus pulls up, you're going to have it on Pleasant Street as well as in the front of the property as well. Secondly, where the parking area are located, where are snow piles? Are they allowed? Is snow going to be allowed to build up to a certain height before it has to be trucked out of there? And thirdly, we're so energy conscious, is there going to be any solar on this project? Any rooftop solar?
I'll let Jason answer the fire lane stuff because I'm not any expert on that. We have looked into solar, but right now we're in mechanical design and we have to determine what's going to be on the roof and where it's located in order to do any solar. And we've talked to a solar company and they don't want to do any proposal on solar on the roof until we have that design. So it's been considered. We have not made a decision on it.
Good evening, Jason Dolmich, MSK Engineering. So just to answer the question about fire lanes, the site is completely accessible along Pleasant Street, as well as accessible via Main Street. Fire trucks can get into the site, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we did have Paul Dancero, we did talk about this early on with respect to access and ladder trucks, so that they have reviewed that and will continue to review it as part of the building permit. With respect to snow piles, there's not a lot of snow storage on this site. If there is a heavy winter, they're just going to be trucked off-site. Most plowing operations and companies, know how to maintain adequate parking during the winter. So.
Jason, do you know, on a true snow day, typically things like the daycare and Meals on Wheels, would they be postponed on those days?
Well, so from a site access perspective, there's actually 3 specific drop-off and pickup areas for this site, and that was...
I mean, the programs, do you know if the programs are canceled on snow days?
I don't.
I would say probably so, if there was like a heavy snow, that they would probably.
I don't know if that's a...
I know typically
practice right now or not.
daycare is usually closed when school's closed. So that's not a common thing. That's not something I do.
But from a site access perspective, if you're talking about getting in, plowing, you're really plowing access lanes. You've got, you have a drop-off and pickup area towards what I went to middle school here, so I call it the cafetorium. And also you have the plaza drop-off area, and then we worked with the town to identify some pickup and drop-off area, limited time parking spaces right in front of the building for some of that overflow for daycare. So.
Any other comments or questions, ma'am?
Nancy White, Bennington, and I apologize if these questions have been asked and answered. I can only hear about 20% of what you said. Exactly how many parking spaces do our town zoning bylaws actually require on-site for the Ben High?
Nancy, you want to ask all your questions, and then we can have them,
I'm sorry?
if you could ask all your questions to the board, and then they'll make sure the developer answers the questions.
Okay. Because I thought there was no parking requirements. You're saying 38, but I thought there wasn't a parking requirement anymore. Did you say you received a copy of the $40,000 parking study for the Ben High? When I looked at the blueprints last week, it appears there's only 3 handicap parking spaces. Senior Center, Meals on Wheels, apartments. I'll bet there were 3 handicap spaces when it was the middle school. Way far too few spaces. Were they asking for parking spaces on Main Street to be dedicated? Because I saw 11 spaces on the blueprints. I think the spaces in the front, I saw signs for loading and unloading. If that's the case, far too unsafe. The school never asked for that parking to be dedicated. You're going to have 7 to 8, 3 to 4 high traffic times. No parent should be loading and unloading their kids with signs telling them to be there. Last year and this year, the select board and town officials never told the public that what has been a town senior center for 45 years will be a Bennington County senior center at the Ben High. I think the space is going to be far too small. Has anyone said how many seniors from Bennington County are being expected? Are seniors from New York State going to be allowed? Again, this all should have been discussed at the big meeting last October.
Those types of questions are typically...
I'm sorry?
Those questions are typically not within the purview of this board. Our purview is to make sure that the project meets the requirements. So, for instance, what seniors are going to be allowed to use the senior center, we have no say on that.
But don't you have to approve the dimensions of the space?
We do.
Okay.
We have to approve the changes to the space, yes.
Well, originally seniors were, but what I'm trying to make the point of, originally seniors were told they would have twice the space at the Ben High. The space was
We
shrunk.
have no bearing on what the seniors were told originally. That
Okay.
doesn't come in front of this board.
Is there requirements for how many people can be in that space?
There are certainly requirements for occupancy. There will be occupancy requirements.
Not for each dedicated space?
Again, it's not really related to this board because our goal is to ensure that it meets the development standards of the town.
Okay. Green Mountain Bus is supposed to be running every 30 minutes. Will they be unloading and loading?
Again, we have no control over Green Mountain busing. So that's not...
I'm just trying, I'm very concerned from a safety
I
standpoint.
understand, and I appreciate that you are. However, we can't answer anything, for instance, Green Mountain, the mover, that is not at all related to what we have.
Okay. Have you received the state traffic study that was done a few years ago for the bridge that's going to be repaired right up the street? It has a pretty high traffic count. And again, I'm concerned if somebody wants Main Street parking dedicated for the Ben High. More concerns about lack of parking. Nobody's talked about how many people will be working in the building in addition to the daycare, in addition to people from Bennington County. I think you should table this discussion. I think the select board and town officials should have provided a lot more information.
We have no control over the select board.
Well, I mean,
I understand.
but again, I've been raising concerns about parking for 2 years. By now, you should be looking at this site with all the parking dedicated. You know, the seniors were promised, oh, we're going to have lots of room.
I have no idea what seniors...
Well, these were public meetings.
Okay, but they weren't held in the viewpoint.
Well, it's a shame that we've been strung along for 2 years, and this is what you're looking at, 3 handicap spaces, nothing else dedicated. Thanks.
Thank you. So I do want to ask some questions about the parking then. Does who would be best to answer those? So my main question, does it meet the town standards for parking spaces?
Correct,
Including handicap?
correct. You need 1 per 50, or 1 per 25, and
That is not taking into account any parking, public parking on Main Street.
correct.
And did you mention earlier there would be a parking study or traffic study related to this?
Shannon mentioned it. I understand from what she said that Mark Anders from Bennington County Regional Commission is going to be looking at parking in this region.
And what would happen if his conclusions were that it's locally inadequate?
I really am not going to speak to what the extent of it is because I'm not involved, so I'm going to let Shannon, I'm going to put Shannon in the hot seat.
That's fine.
But anyway, just to punctuate, Jason.
Sure.
It does meet the developmental standards.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to speak for the entire intent of the land use and development regulations, but the current standards do acknowledge that this is a downtown site and that in general in Bennington, there is an abundance of parking.
Right. So the parking study is really to address, any public concerns, user concerns. It's not being done for, development review because according to the town standards, there are enough parking spaces. But it's to address the issues that have been raised. If you have, a child care center and a senior center and other programming happening from the Y, how do we make sure that everyone's needs are being met? So at this point, we have lots of spaces along Main Street that are available. We have the spaces here that are being identified, and some are being designated, particularly for seniors. There's a drop-off area designated for the child care center. And then we're also looking at other options there's another town-owned parcel that's kind of not directly across the street, but it's the piece of land that abuts the town cemetery. So that could potentially be overflow parking if needed, based on the results of the study.
Zach Hale Resources. I would also like to point out that the current senior center Meals on Wheels has half of this parking. And our goal is going to be for it to function as those businesses are. When it comes to housing, we manage 200 apartments in Bennington, and we have a lot of properties where there isn't adequate parking because these properties were grandfathered in, and tenants are very adaptable to this. So when people are looking to live here, we're going to have rules for parking that we have implemented based on the certain property. And so those people are going to take that into account when they live here, and we're going to make sure that the tenants that live here will live in, they'll be okay with the parking situation and the rules before they live there. So we're going to have this figured out with parking. And I don't think it's that big of a deal. And Nancy, I appreciate everything that you're saying, but this is an awesome project, and to come up here and shut it down like that.
I just want honest answers about parking.
Any motions for the board? From the board?
So we'll make a motion to close the hearing and go into executive session.
All in favor?
So the hearing is closed, we'll be going into executive session. The board will most likely make a decision this evening, and then a written decision will be published for everyone to review.
It's possible.
Yeah, possible, yeah, may take more time, but very likely, given we can resubmit.
Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.